Today we're going to talk about inherited IRAs. You've probably heard a lot about tax law updates and how they impact them before the Secure Act 2.0, as well as what they look like now after the Secure Act 2.0.
We have some demolition next door to us, across the street. So if you hear any weird noises, just know it's from that.
So today we're going to talk about inherited IRAs. This can be kind of an emotive topic, simply that, usually what it means is somebody had to pass away for there to be a beneficiary IRA status. So really what we wanted to talk about, there's multiple layers and tranches that we've had to experience from a tax law change. Really going around, you've probably heard a lot about Secure Act 1.0, Secure Act 2.0. So let's kind of break it down, pre-tax law updates and post-tax law updates, and really the impact of what that means to each one of our clients.
Yep, that sounds good. So before Secure Act 1.0 was enacted, which is December of 19, for everyone who passed away before 12/31/2019, they were on the stretch rule. So if you're a person and received an inherited IRA, you were on the stretch rule, which determined basically when the person passed away, the person's birthday, the past, what was your birthday. There was kind of this calculation which they basically required minimum distributions off the account after a certain age. As we were seeing on the exhibit right now, there's basically, you were either a person or you're a non-person that got a beneficiary. If you're a non-person, it's usually like a charity or an estate. But in general, there was basically just two buckets.
And you could stretch those beneficiary dollars over someone's lifetime. So you could go down multiple generations to mitigate the long-term tax impact of those inherited dollars. Is that what you're getting at?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
Perfect.
And so Secure Act 1.0 got passed late December 19. And so everyone who passed away that received a inherited IRA that the decedent was passed away after 1/1 of 2020, they're now on this new 10-year stretch rule. So as you see in the new example, they added a new layer where basically you can be an eligible beneficiary. For the most people, you fall in the non-eligible beneficiary, which basically meant it's got to be all gone within 10 years. So it didn't matter if it's a Roth account or an IRA account, those accounts had to be liquidated within a 10-year period.
So let's kind of break this down real world for you. So John, if you inherited an IRA from one of your parents, let's say, and there's $1 million in there and it's all pre-tax money, that when you pull those dollars out, you get taxed on them. You used to be able to say, hey, I have to take a certain amount out every single year vis-a-vis a required minimum distribution, but you could stretch that over your entire lifetime, and you're a fairly young buck, so you have a lot of years to mitigate that tax hit. What the Secure Act, what these tax law updates is what you're saying is, rather than an entire lifetime to pull $1 million out, it reduced it down to a 10-year window. So now all of a sudden, you got to take $1 million out over a 10-year window versus a 20, 30, or potentially 40-year window. And that's effectively what you're getting at there.
Exactly. It's a huge tax law change, definitely impacts a lot of our clients that are in this particular scenario. And it was a fundamental, huge tax increase to our government with this big change.
And that's one thing that a lot of people don't talk about is the tax increase that happened around these stretch IRA rules.
Yep. So what happened last year, kind of middle of 2022-ish timeframe, the IRS kind of realized they were expecting that people were taking out RMDs for this period. So even though you have to take out over a 10-year period, they would want to be saying, if the person passed away was taking RMDs, you should have been taking RMDs. And so they didn't really say, they didn't specify how in the first act, how they wanted it taken out. But now what they want to say is, if the required beginning date, they call it the RBD, of the beneficiary was before they were supposed to take RMDs, there's still no requirement to take those RMDs over the 10-year period, and they still got to be out after 10 years. But now, effective July of this year, 2023, they are saying now that there should be an RMD being taken out of them.
So basically what you're getting at is, okay, post 2020, the new rules came out around this 10-year window of when these pre-tax IRAs have to be pulled out of the account and taxed upon. The question was, do I have to take an annual required minimum distribution from these IRAs or not? What you're saying is, this last year they came out with a rule saying, hey, we're not worried about from 2020 until now, but now going forward, you do have to take an annual required minimum distribution out of your inherited IRA and have it drained within a 10-year period.
Exactly. So they have the expectation that people should be taking out RMDs now. That's kind of a general expectation. That's why we're kind of encouraging, if people are in this scenario, probably taking some amount out of the amount over the next 8 to 10 years, depending on when the person passed, probably a good idea. At least taking out the RMD is a good thing to at least stretch out the tax impact. But obviously, your CPA, your financial advisor, you want to talk to them about what's your particular situation, because they're going to know best from a long-term perspective. But getting some of it going now is probably a prudent thing.
That makes sense. So from a tax planning standpoint, what you're getting at is, and maybe you have a year where you're showing less income. Maybe you retired in that year and you have an inherited IRA. That might be a good year to take a larger distribution from that amount out. So basically, the whole gist of this is we have a 10-year window to work with. You have to take them out annually now. And there's been a lot of confusion around this with all of our client base and just the general public. So what we wanted to do is hopefully clear some of this up for our clients. If you're in a situation where you've recently inherited an IRA, or you just have questions in general on it, talk to your financial advisor, talk to your CPA, but we're always here to help and make these tax implications just a little bit better for you in your retirement income journey.
Thanks, everyone.